We are all shoppers of some sort, and we know that we changed our activity dramatically as the COVID-19 lockdowns began in mid-March. Clearly, that hit retail sales. We found out a record drop of 10% for the month. StatsCan warning us it will only look worse when we get the April numbers. Diane Brisebois is with the Retail Council of Canada and joins us now. And Diane, although these numbers are not a surprise, it's still shocking just to see it there in black and white on the page.
It is indeed. And you're right, we're not surprised. And we don't expect to be any more surprised for April. And we do expect those numbers to look worse in April because we're going to be looking at 4 weeks of most non-essential retailers being closed. So it will be grim, to say the least.
Now, a lot of economists, whether it's retail or whether it's other sectors of the economy that were abruptly ordered to shut their doors, and of course then, your business just falls off of a cliff, are optimistic. Even the Bank of Canada governor, optimistic that as now we're going through these reopenings and if all goes well, we can bounce back pretty quickly. What does it look like from your perspective in the retail sector?
Well, certainly in speaking to retailers in the non-essential, they believe it will be slower. Many of them, as you may know, who were allowed to reopen decided to wait because they did not feel they were ready in ensuring that both customers and employees would be safe. In some cases, they had to refresh their inventory, redesign their stores. So the recovery will be slower. Now, they are optimistic, they're retailers, and they certainly have seen customers shopping online. So they expect to see them return into the stores, but we suspect also that will be slow.
Diane, I think about conversations we've had over the years, before all this, and sometimes we would discuss the fact that, we bought Black Friday to this country to make sure Canadians didn't keep spending their money in the United States. When we start talking about online sales and these different, portals that aren't Canadian, are we seeing the same sort of dynamic as people move online? Maybe those dollars don't remain in Canada, they end up going outside the country?
Well, in fact, most of the dollars are remaining in Canada. There's always about $6 billion that we estimate is purchased outside of the country. So consumer imports online, we would call that. But I think what's of concern to us are the Stats Canada numbers on e-commerce. In the report, they said it represented 4.5%. And that is absolutely incorrect. We respect Stats Canada, but when it comes to measuring online sales, they're very ineffective. The numbers that have been reported do not include such portals as Amazon or Wayfair, for example, because they're seen as warehouses. They don't include imports, as I just mentioned. We calculate that online sales in Canada right now are close to reaching 15%, so much greater. And the 4.5% stated by StatsCan includes gas and auto, so that should not be included. So Canadians are shopping online in Canada. The weaker dollar discourages a lot of people from buying outside of Canada, and they're embracing it. We suspect that will continue to grow, as well as curbside pickup. Those are the big changes that will shape the retail sector as we move forward.
I've actually taken part of that. My son, one of his video game controllers, I think they got a PS4 or something like that. We did the whole stand in the line up to 6 feet, the curbside at an electronics store. So that's here to stay. How does that change the retail experience, and how does that change the demand for workers at these big stores?
It changes the customer experience. It's also changing the ecosystem for employees. We've seen an enormous amount of investment in training, but we've also heard from our retailers that it's been challenging bringing employees back. One of the reasons is because of the wage subsidies and some of the programs that are encouraging some of the employees to stay home instead of going back to work. In another case, it's because employees are a bit more concerned about their health. But generally, retailers are investing to ensure that their employees feel safe, but they have to be retrained because, as you said, customers are going to be living through a different retail experience. So it's physical distancing, it's cleaning, washing hands. It's dealing with plexiglass at the cash register. It's tap instead of touch, not using cash, using credit or debit, waiting in line. That is going to continue for a while, and retailers are going to be creative in developing new experiences. We think technology will play a huge role in making that experience warmer, even though we need to continue respecting physical distancing.
Diane, before I let you go, you mentioned one government program there, the CERB, and you shared those concerns that we've heard that perhaps some workers won't want to come back because they're getting this government assistance. What about the rent assistance as well? We know that retailers have been hit hard. They owe the money to the landlord. There's a rent program to help them, but the landlord has to agree. Are you sensing some tension out there?
Oh, a lot of tension from both small and large retailers. The Secret program is for much smaller merchants, up to $20 million in sales. And we've been told, even though it will go live on the 25th, we've been told by many of our small merchants that they've not been able to reach their landlords, or that the landlords have simply said they're not interested in the program. They think it's too complicated. And the second concern is that there's no new program for mid and large. Most of our retailers have not seen any sales, or very few sales, for the better part of 3 months, and they're still expected to pay their rents. Many of the malls are closed. So this is the number one issue on the mind of most of our retailers, and needs to be addressed very quickly.
Diane, it's always great to get your insights. Thanks so much for joining us.